It has been recognized as the top anime in the world for nearly 3 decades. In the hearts of many anime fans, it is the pinnacle masterpiece that even the giants can hardly match. The hero, Gazi, obviously only has a body weight of more than 100 kgs, but easily wielding a 7/100 gin black iron heavy sword. As a mercenary, he has dealt with death all the year round. The enemy army swarmed to seize the city. In the melee, there was a heavy armored soldier with a huge axe who was invincible. All of a sudden the soldier was quiet. Everyone's eyes were on him. However, no one dared to step forward to fight with him. Just when morale was low, Gazi walked out of the crowd slowly. Take the giant sword and attack straight away. Its bombardment to the head, the strong man was forced to retreat steadily. At the moment when the battle axe and the great sword collide, the winner is already decided. Gazi E7 put him at the waist and cut him off. Man kneeling on the ground begging for mercy, but Gazi Taji combed the center of his head. When the soldiers saw this situation, they all shouted with excitement. Take down the city with great momentum. At this time, there is a mysterious person who has been watching Gazi. Soldier body piled up like a mountain. After the war, Gazi made great contributions and got a high reward. The chief invited him to join the 8th Machine Army, get 3 times the salary you get today. But Gazi directly refused because he was not free enough. After that, Gazi left the city alone. At this time, a group of armored cavalry rushed over with a murderous look. Although solved A, but the outnumbered cavalry surrounded him. Even if the two go together, they still can't hurt Gazi. Man gets bad. It turns out we're here to die. At this time, the mysterious person hiding behind the hillside, she sent the captain of the cavalry to meet, but still, he was cut down in less than 3 rounds. Gazi saw that it was a woman when he was still a boy. He was suddenly distracted. But the heavy sword in the hand will not be cold and fragrant. Every swing is a jing strike. Woman's foot slipped and she fell on her back. Gazi was about to chop off his head with all his might, but a flying arrow interrupted the spell. It is the boss of this team who is coming over. Catch the thief and help the king. Without saying much, he rushed away, but the brute force blow was easily blocked by the leader. Then he stabbed Gazi with a knife as fast as lightning. It turns out that this team is the famous Eagle Group, and the leader Griffith is even more daring when he wakes up again already in a strange tent. The female cavalry just now was lying naked with him. Woman didn't speak. He putting on pants and leaving. Gazi asked if his precious boy was still alive. Iren walked over with a face of indifference, and he punched in the chest. A punch to the abdomen let Gazi suffer unceasingly. He rushed out of the tent angrily, but it surprised him. He already in the camp of the Eagle Regiment. At this time the chief Griffith carrying Gazi's sword and walking straight. It turns out that Griffith appreciates Gazi very much. Let him add 8 of his own Eagle Regiment. But Gazi longs for freedom. He don't want to be bound by others. He draws his sword and proposes a duel. If you lose the battle, you agree to join the Eagle Regiment. Griffiths smiled wickedly. Brace yourself for a duel under the watchful eye of the crowd. This top showdown begins immediately. Gazi's brute force hits like a wolf, like a tiger. But in the eyes of the leader, there are many flaws. But Gazi dissatisfied, he kick up the dirt and take cover. But such cleverness means nothing to Griffith, and Gazi lost. But he not completely lost, but he still bit Griffith's sharp sword, push it to the ground, make up 1 foot, but then ride on the crotch to drive left and right, punch after punch, beating that face that is more powerful than a woman. Gazi got the upper hand and started to get proud. A confident punch was turned around. Griffith screwed his arm out on the spot. Gazi was defeated in the end. Since then, he has become the strongest warrior under Griffith. Gazi will stay here for 3 years. During these 3 years, he went his own way. Every battle will not be carried out according to the original plan, although it wins every time. Gazi always makes the first move. However, the act of acting rashly against the morale of the army make the female knight jealous of him. Said he disregarded the overall situation. But Supreme Leader Griffith has a special love for Gazi, and he never too much blame. However, because of Griffith's favor, let Gazi almost die in Huangquan in the future in a siege war. All the soldiers who rushed into the castle died tragically. Gazi doesn't listen to everyone's advice, determined to go in and find out. As soon as I came in, the whole floor was chopped up with 7 or 8 pieces of night body, and among them was a green humanoid monster with a height of 2 or 3 meters. But Gazi newborn calves are not afraid of tigers, and he's still rushing away with a heavy sword. However, he was hit by a knife and flew 10 meters away. It turns out that the monster is the legendary undead Jing, has existed for 200 years. Gazi strikes again. He used his usual tricks and he cut off the monster's sword with his heavy sword. Then he slashed at Bei's shoulder with his sword, but the monster's body is as solid as a rock. A wound of this degree is nothing to him at all. The monster has never been injured by anyone in 200 years, and Gazi's appearance made him extremely excited. Immediately transformed from a human form into a giant. If Devilman is the originator of dark anime, then Legend of Sword Wind must be the pinnacle masterpiece of the Dark series. The male protagonist Gazi is also known as the worst anime male protagonist. In the end, Not only did he helplessly cut off a hand, and his eyes are also stabbed blind, and his girlfriend was in front of him. However, the origin of all tragedies in Gazi, it started from the ground to meet brother Griffith. Since Griffith defeated Gazi, Gazi also willingly became his subordinate during the 3 years when Gazi joined. The Eagle Group has also gradually become a middle-class society against the enemy. Griffith was granted the title of nobility by breaking the rules. Of course, the help of Gazi is also indispensable. Later, the demon group was ordered to attack a city that was easy to defend but difficult to attack. Legend has it that there is a monster that has lived for 200 years in this castle. It is the undead Salter. Gazi is so unbelievable that he is going to find out what happened. However, I was abused and looked for his teeth all over the place. Jane even transformed into a huge tauren. Gazi is no match at all. He had to run around to avoid Thord's fierce attack. Seeing that the Gazi is rolling and rolling, he falls to the ground. When life hangs in the balance, Griffith shows up with reinforcements. However, this is the same as making Thord and the bottom angry. The soldiers have become the opponents who are trampled on. At this time, Griffith and Gazi forcefully attacked. Cut Thord one left and one right, but in the face of such a monster, after all, the two are still useless. Griffith passed out immediately after being severely injured. Thord was preparing to kill Griffith, but accidentally saw the Overlord's egg hanging on his neck. Thord was surprised at first, then laughing and ready to fly away from here. But before leaving, he gave a warning to Gazi. He told Gazi, when Griffith's ambitions were shattered, that's when your time of death comes. This is an inescapable fate. After speaking, he left the castle. Afterwards, Gazi and Griffin narrowly escaped death. When the two are chatting, Griffith told Gazi about the origin of Doing's egg. This was when he was a child, got it from a mother-in-law, the person who is said to have the Overlord's egg. In the end, he will sacrifice his own flesh and blood as a substitute, in exchange for the destiny of the world. Although Gazi was taken aback, but in this warm environment, he didn't think so. When the two are talking and laughing, the king and 7 people came suddenly. Griffith's new brother arrives. After the master, Griffith kneel down and salute respectfully, and the Gazi on the side stood there disdainfully. The minister on the side is the head of the White Dragon Knights, because it is often credited by Griffith's eagle burden, causing him to target Griffith everywhere. Of course, I won't miss the chance this time. He angrily scolded Gazi for being too presumptuous. Careful mind is not guaranteed. In the end, Gazi saw Griffith winking at him. This is why I kneel down reluctantly, but the king didn't care about his people for his rudeness. On the contrary, he admired the two Uncle Ying who fought on the battlefield. Also, introduced Princess Charlotte to Griffith, but the princess is still too shy. After all, but when he left, he didn't want to take his eyes off Griffith. Griffith carried her up when the princess is in love, and Dargon Knight suddenly came. A big mouth slapped in Griffith's face. He say, you are not allowed to touch the princess. Gazi wants to come forward and educate him, but he was stopped by Griffith. Also apologized to Mars when they were hunting and having fun with the nobles this day. Griffith stands by the prince's side, but suddenly a wild boar army came out. Princess's horse is frightened, running out of control. Griffith immediately drove his horse to catch up, but all this was seen by Mars. When Griffith is about to catch up, a leap jumped onto the princess's horse. After controlling the situation, everyone rushed over, but a sworn arrow shot through the forehead right in the heart of Griffith. Everyone is terrified, but he's fine. It happened to be blocked by the Overlord's egg. He took a look, spotted a suspicious figure of Uth in the wood. Superior Griffith gave Gazi a secret dirty job, that is to assassinate Mars, and he told to be careful, can't be recognized by anyone. Sure enough, Gazi lived up to expectations, cut Uth under his sword with great fanfare. At this time, he heard a noise outside the door. A conditioned reflex rushes out and stabs the passerby to death. But he take a closer look. It's a child. Looking at the child's painful expression, Gazi is completely screwed. He stay where you are. It was discovered by passing guards, and triggered. This is the legendary Overlord's egg, the person who is said to have it. In the end, he will sacrifice my own flesh and blood in exchange for the fate of conquering the world. Dominating the world is also the wildness that Griffith has had since he was a child. But on top of the government and the opposition that are targeting him everywhere, also had to humiliate. However, after being assassinated, Griffith finally broke out in silence. He sent his goat to assassinate Minister Mass. Although Gazi successfully killed Yusi with a single knife, but still found hearing the movement, Gazi habitually rushed out the door and beheaded the passers-by. But he take a closer look. It's a child. Gazi is not the mother, but looking at the child's painful expression, though his heart is also affected, and he's standing in place for a long time. He can't calm down. That's when patrolling guards spotted him. Gazi can only fight a bloody way. After a hard fight, he escaped by jumping into the wall. The desperate Gazi came to the Eagle Group. He looking around for Griffith. At this moment, Kajianji saw the injuries on her body. He know what must have happened to him, but he didn't ask too much, just bandaged his arms. At this time, the two found that Griffith was chatting with the princess. Their words will also change Gazi's face. Griffith told the princess, Griffith is a person who restlessly does his destiny. I live for dream. Willing to die for the dream. Dreams are his reason for living. It is also his idea that he will never be attached to anyone. He demanded of himself that doesn't deserve to be his friend if there is no such pursuit of dreams. Griffith's idea made Gazi suffer a lot. In Gazi's heart, he has long regarded Griffith as his best friend. He finally found out he remembering is just a part of his dream. At this time, The panicked maid came running, informed the two about the murder of minister. After learning that the mission was successful, Griffith, not showing one's anger or joy the relationship between this Ghazi and Griffith. There is also a picture at this moment since the death of us the response group led by Griffith, growing importance in the kingdom. Even the king probably found a piece of treasure himself. This time the Eagle group was ordered to go to the country to suppress a night group in the enemy country. Ghazi, as the captain of the charge, is still at the forefront. However, Casca's performance was abnormal due to her menstrual period. Pushed to the edge of a cliff by the head of the enemy knights, just when the group hit the fatal blow, Ghazi appeared in time. The leader saw the situation directly, resorted to the 200 years of ancestral marksmanship, but he was knocked off the horse by Ghazi face to face. But at this time, Casca was too tired and fainted, falling back straight to the cliff. Ghazi's eyesight is sharp and his hands are quick to catch her in time, but was hit by a cold arrow fired by the enemy. Both fell off the cliff. Fortunately, there is a lake below. This is the only way to survive. Casca, who came ashore, had a high fever. Ghazi, after taking off his clothes for the ground, that's when I found out she was on her period. For this reason, Ghazi also uses his own body to keep her body temperature in a coma. Scarlet dreamed of her sad child. As a child she was raped by a nobleman. The young Griffith passed by throwing his own sword and beheading the nobleman's ear. Casca killed the nobleman in a panic. This Casca also regards Griffith as a godlike existence. Under the meticulous care of Ghazi, she finally woke up after recovering their strength. The two rushed back to the base camp, but he met hundreds of enemy soldiers ambushing. How strong is this man with a big sword? He went to the battlefield when he was 5 years old, and when he was 10, the tops of corpses everywhere in the forest were all done by him alone, and just now, he and Casca were surrounded by hundreds of heavily armed elite soldiers. Ghazi told Casca to run away, not just for the safety of the land, but one more person will only get in the way of the Ghazi party. But Casca thinks he's underestimating herself, determined to live and die with Ghazi. After all, the Ghazi who is always in the seat still has a weakness. The enemy commander asked the archer to shoot at the woman. Ghazi stepped forward and attacked with his fleshy body. Seeing this, Casca realized that she was really a burden, so he rushed back to the capital at a very fast speed to bring in the rescuers, and Ghazi also turned on the killing mode. Within the reach of the great sword, there are decapitated souls. Ghazi's left hand was pierced by a bow and arrow, but only with one hand is still the incarnation of the devil. But the enemy swarmed him to the point where he couldn't let go, no matter how strong a person is. In front of the tactics of the Sea of AA people, the body has no choice but to crumble. Warrior melee attacks gradually consume stamina. The shooter develops but shoots with a gun. It is difficult for Ghazi to stand up with his big sword die, but the continuous output already left him covered in blood. After several hours of eye pain and suffering, the eyes finally become blurred. The dripping blood seems to have stopped. Ghazi is no longer to fight with soldiers, but majestic, domineering. Like the eyes are no longer indomitable, rather, it is a death wish. The enemy gave the final call to attack. They came rushing like hungry tigers. Ghazi has no chance of winning anymore. It's time to end, but that's impossible when the revolving lantern emerges in an instant. Even if the heart stops beating his soul to fight, even if the soul disappears, he also wants to climb out of the coffin. This time the enemies are all scared. Time comes. Early morning. Casca finally arrives with support, but he take a look. Everyone's eyes are nothing but irresponsible soldier body piles up like a mountain. All over the forest they are looking for Ghazi in the corpse. No one believed he was alive, but in the depths of the forest, Ghazi leaning against the tree with his hand disturbing the big sword. Crowd surrounded him. I don't know whether to live or die, but in everyone's look everyone also knows the answer. Ghazi died bravely. After all, Ghazi didn't as you like it. This battle setup also made him awe-inspiring everywhere. Since then, it has been called 100 people behead. Can 5,000 cavalry defeat 30,000 elite soldiers? This is the toughest battle the Eagles have fought so far. Fort Eldor is easy to defend but hard to attack. In the 100 Years' War, famous generals of all dynasties could not break through his city gate when all the generals are at a loss. Griffithson stepped forward. He pleaded with the king 5,000 soldiers and horses from the return of the Eagle can win. The generals all stared at him dumbfounded. Ministry thinks he is overreaching, but the king thought for a moment. Hand over this difficult task to Griffith. The regiment set up a large formation with their backs against the river, just in case everything is in Griffith's hands. The governor of Dole is a BT who likes to play with boys. After hearing that the leader of the rotten group is Griffith, he suddenly excited. Ask someone to bring him back to life unscathed. The battle between the two sides sparked in one place. The Eagle group chooses to fight to the death and there is no way out. Griffith's new horse prancing orders the first team to follow him in the charge, watching the Eagle's tactics as a joke. The Persian general was not complacent, printing his own stormtroopers to confront it head-on, surround the Eagles in numbers, and Griffith took advantage of the mobility of the light cavalry. The enveloping graph is soon broken. Ghazi led the vanguard and rushed towards the Persian general's brigade, but Persia, As the #1 general of the Yoda Empire, it can be said that it has never been defeated in battle. Immediately ordered the archers to resist the attack of the regiment in an instant. The arrows in the air came like raindrops, successfully blocked Ghazi vanguard, and the heavy cavalry under Gauss attacked in an all-round way. Only one purpose, that is to kill Griffith, although the governor repeatedly ordered that he must be captured alive. But in Gauss' view, as long as the spiritual leader Griffith is lost, then the return of the eagle will fall apart. So Gauss secretly ordered that no one should be left alive at this time. The governor saw that the eagles were already in disarray. In order not to hurt Griffith, Gauss was deprived of command of the military. Remember to issue a certificate from the commander. Even poured out the defensive power in the city. When two force stars collide, only the brave can win. But in the face of tens of thousands of enemy counterattacks, Wagwan has a passion for blood. But he is really outnumbered. After all, the eagles have been driven to the shore just at the time of advancing and retreating. Persia just in case want to get rid of the group as soon as possible. Unexpectedly, he ran into the sun, who was killing the quartet. Unexpectedly, he ran into Ghazi, who was killing the quartet. The battle between the top combat forces of the two sides is imminent, since the governor fell for Griffith's beauties, leaving the defense of the Fort empty. Cascaletta team to attack the city head-on, quickly occupied the fortress facing the enemies. First fierce general, the Ghazi, who is so skillful, can't take advantage of it, even gradually at a disadvantage. Gods and demons fight mortals by mistake. Four loyal brothers came to assist Ghazi, a sweeping flesh and blood flying Ghazi holding the battle flag of the eagles, then throw it at Gauss. Gaussian in case of obstructed line of sight. Brute blow. All of a sudden, the whole place was full of yellow sand. Wait for the dust flying all over the sky to disperse. Ghazi beheaded the Persian general with his men and horses. Both sides are dumbfounded. The governor, who thought he was sure of victory, also fell into panic. At this time, there were bursts of cheers in the fortress. It's already covered with the flags of the eagles. Yoda soldier left behind fled everywhere. The governor is making a last ditch but can't help. He was the only one who lost the whole battlefield. Griffith came slowly on horseback. The total pain at this time is like seeing the lover I have been thinking about. Keep praising his eyes as charming as before. It turns out they knew each other a long time ago. Griffith was the governor's man at that time, got the first army by selling the hue. Now the Eagle regiment has soared to the top. It is no longer necessary to change the use of the speed.